15 famous actors, once icons of masculinity, who once made millions of hearts swoon, but who carried within them a secret that could destroy their careers in the blink of an eye. Throughout the 20th century, coming out as gay meant the end of a future. They had to live double lives, walking a path filled with fear and loneliness. They were forced to sign silence contracts. They were forced to stage fake marriages, and even some had to endure absurd therapies to deny their very selves. But folks, even though they were imprisoned in Hollywood's invisible cage, their hearts still yearned to live authentically. That very yearning created shocking turning points, tear-stained public letters, declarations that stunned the world, and tragedies that brought the public to tears. Today, we will explore the story of a face who captivated millions in the early 2000s, Wentworth Miller. He was the soul of the Prison Break series, with his piercing gaze, powerful physique, and extraordinary intellect. He was an icon of masculinity, the dream of millions of viewers. Yet, few knew that behind that resolute gaze, Wentworth was struggling in profound solitude and unimaginable pain. For many years, he repeatedly denied rumors, evading every question about his personal life, because he knew that just one admission would be enough to ruin his career. But in 2013, a fateful turning point occurred. Russia had just enacted a law discriminating against the LGBTQ community. Wentworth was invited to attend a film festival there, and he refused. But it wasn't just a simple refusal. He wrote a public letter full of strength and emotion, declaring that he is gay. He could not go to a country where people like him are oppressed, tortured, even killed just for daring to love. That letter spread across the world. It not only freed Wentworth, but also became a direct punch to silence and prejudice. From a star forced to live a lie, Wentworth Miller transformed himself into a symbol of courage. After Wentworth Miller, we continue to another face, an actor from Wales with classic beauty, commanding presence, and a warm, deep voice that captivated millions of viewers. That is none other than Luke Evans. Luke began his career on the London musical theatre stage. From there, he stepped into Hollywood with unforgettable roles, from Dracula Untold, Beauty and the Beast, Fast and Furious to The Hobbit. Luke Evans' image on screen is the ideal man, full of masculinity, full of power. But behind the silver screen, Luke Evans chose a different path for himself. Unlike many colleagues, Luke never staged fake romances. He also didn't hide himself with false declarations. In London's theatre circles, Luke lived very naturally, comfortably, and without concealing that he is gay. Yet, when he came to Hollywood, everything changed. He received cold warnings: don't come out, stay silent, or your career will end. Luke chose silence for a time, not out of fear, but because he wanted to protect himself from the harsh prejudices of an industry not yet ready to accept the truth. But unlike many others, Luke never lied. He didn't pretend to love someone. He didn't create superficial facades to please the public. In interviews, he was always calm, always answering composedly, "I am an actor, and I don't need any other labels." That attitude itself was a silent but powerful declaration, an affirmation that sexuality does not define talent, nor can it hinder artistic passion. Luke Evans lived true to himself, but in a subtle, mature, and confident way. He didn't need flashy announcements. It was his steadfastness and straightforwardness in living that turned him into an icon. Luke Evans proved a simple but profound thing. You can be an action star, a masculine icon on the silver screen, and at the same time still live true to yourself. If Luke Evans is an example of confident silence, then the next story is a gentle but haunting tragedy. That is Tom Hulce. He once made the whole world admire him when he embodied Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart in the film Amadeus, a work that won an Oscar and made him one of the most brilliant talents of his generation. With his innocent eyes, straightforward smile, and deeply emotional acting, Tom left a profound mark on audiences' hearts. But behind that glow, Tom Hulse had to carry a secret he could not reveal. He is gay, but chose to remain silent for many years. Unlike some colleagues who came out early, Tom evaded every question about his personal life. The media speculated, the press dug deep, but he resolutely stayed silent, not once confirming, not once denying, as if he wanted to completely separate himself from the public's curiosity. It wasn't until 2008, when Hollywood's spotlight had faded, that Tom Hulse admitted the truth. Yes, I am gay. A short statement, unassuming, no need for justification, but that very simplicity carried immense meaning. It showed that, for decades, his silence was not from shame or denial, but from the tremendous pressure of an industry where gay actors struggled to get chances for straight romantic roles. After Amadeus, Tom Hulse continued working in the arts but gradually moved behind the scenes. He became a renowned theater producer, even winning a Tony for outstanding plays. Though no longer an A-list film star, Tom dedicated his life to art, to theater, and to more diverse, deeper stories. If Tom Hulse chose silence for most of his career, then the next figure is proof of a new generation daring to live authentically, daring to face prejudice right when the spotlight was shining brightest. That is Jonathan Bailey, trained rigorously in Shakespearean theater. He burst into global stardom as Anthony Bridgerton in Netflix's Bridgerton series. On screen, he is a dashing gentleman, strong, a new icon of allure. His romantic scenes captivated millions, making audiences believe he was the ideal man. But in real life, Jonathan is gay, and his journey to live authentically was not easy. In his early career years, he received cold warnings from producers and managers. Don't come out. If you admit it, audiences will never believe you in straight romantic roles. That was a familiar pressure, one that made many generations of actors choose to hide. But Jonathan Bailey did not accept that path. He chose to live true to himself, even knowing that decision could shake his career. And then, when Bridgerton premiered, Jonathan officially came out. The unexpected happened. Instead of being turned away, he was welcomed more warmly than ever. The public not only admired his talent, but also respected his courage and sincerity. Jonathan Bailey's story is like a declaration to an entire new generation. The truth is no longer a barrier. On the contrary, it can become strength. A gay actor can fully conquer straight romantic roles, as long as he has talent and sincerity in every performance. Jonathan Bailey didn't just win for himself. He won for millions out there, those once forced to live in silence. And his message is clear: living authentically doesn't destroy a career, but on the contrary, it can make a career shine brighter than ever. The next is Elliot Page. Audiences worldwide once knew Elliot as Ellen Page, the young, talented star of classic films like Juno, Inception, and X-Men, Days of Future Past. On screen, Elliot moved viewers with profound emotional acting. But behind that exterior, Elliot lived in fierce inner turmoil. In 2014, still known as Ellen Page, Elliot shocked everyone by coming out as gay in a speech at the Human Rights Campaign conference. That speech was so sincere it brought the entire room to tears. But that was only part of the truth. Because Elliot's greatest pain was not just sexuality, but identity. For many years, Elliot felt trapped in a body that wasn't his. He had to take female roles, wear clothes he never felt belonged to him, and that conflict drove him to despair many times. In December 2020, Elliot Page took another historic step. He publicly announced that he is a transgender man. That declaration not only freed Elliot from psychological chains, but also changed how Hollywood views transgender artists. After living true to himself, Elliot didn't lose his career. On the contrary, he became stronger. In the Umbrella Academy, Elliot continued to shine, this time as his true self. He became a symbol of courage, not through fanfare, but by living authentically every day. If Elliot Page is a symbol of courage in facing gender identity, then the next figure is vivid proof of the power of resilience, overcoming 2 layers of prejudice, skin color and sexuality. That is Colman Domingo. Born in Philadelphia, Coleman entered the arts not on a bed of roses. He is a black, gay man, two factors once seen as massive barriers in Hollywood. Yet, instead of bowing to prejudice, Coleman chose to walk tall, with the belief that talent and character are what define a person. From Fear the Walking Dead, Euphoria, to Rustin, Coleman Domingo always delivered powerful, deeply layered performances. He is not just an actor, but an artist who tells stories with his heart. So every role etches raw human truth. What sets Coleman apart is how he faces his sexuality. He doesn't flaunt it, nor hide it. He lives simply, plainly, but proudly. Coleman once shared that being gay doesn't need to become a declaration, but simply a natural part of his life. Coleman's happiness is just as simple. He married designer Raul Domingo, and the two always appear together with a rare peace amid Hollywood's storms. In the public's eyes, Coleman Domingo is not just an outstanding actor, but a symbol of normalization. Because sometimes, the most revolutionary thing isn't shouting slogans, but simply living fully, sincerely, and without asking permission to be yourself. The next figure is Dan Amboyer, not a name too familiar to the global public, but in the eyes of filmmakers. He is the perfect model of a Hollywood prince. He has handsome, elegant looks, aristocratic demeanor. That's why he was chosen to embody Prince William in the TV film William and Catherine, a royal romance. Not only that, Dan also appeared in popular series like Younger and The Blacklist, where he was always cast in romantic leading male roles, the epitome of the ideal man. The public and Hollywood alike believed his career would soar endlessly. Yet, in 2017, Dan Amboyer made a bold decision to come out as gay, and not stopping there. He announced his marriage to his male partner. That news stunned Hollywood, because in many producers' eyes, a gay actor could hardly convince audiences in straight romantic roles anymore. But Dan proved the opposite. He didn't want to be locked in the golden cage of pretense. He wanted to live true, and if it cost his career, he was ready. So what was the result? The public received Dan with enthusiastic support. Colleagues praised him for his sincerity and courage. And most importantly, he became a role model for young actors. That truth doesn't kill a career, but pretense exhausts the soul. Dan Amboyer's story isn't that of an A-list star, but of a person who dared choose freedom over fame. And that very thing makes him a quiet but powerful icon in audiences' hearts. The next is Ricky Martin, the Latin music legend, once considered the world's sex symbol. In the late 90s and early 2000s, Ricky Martin was a global music phenomenon. With hits like Livin' La Vida Loca, She Bangs, or La Copa de la Vida, he ignited stages with his powerful voice, seductive style, and sizzling dance moves. The media branded Ricky the perfect Latin man, making millions of women swoon. Yet, few knew that behind that glow, Ricky Martin strained under silent pain. His management always worked to quash any rumors about his sexuality. In interviews, Ricky deftly evaded, maintaining the ladies' man image the public craved. But deep down, he was trapped in an invisible cage. By 2010, Ricky Martin could endure no more. He posted a letter on his personal website, publicly admitting he is gay. No frills, no beating around the bush, just sincere, strong, liberating words. That moment shocked the world. Some were surprised, others said they always knew. But the most important thing was, Ricky finally lived true to himself. He shared that he no longer wanted to live in fear, no longer wanted to deny himself, especially now that he had children and wanted to raise them in honesty and dignity. The public's reaction exceeded all predictions. Instead of turning away, millions worldwide supported him, praising him as a symbol of courage. Ricky Martin didn't just come out. He immediately became a powerful voice for the LGBTQ community, using his fame to fight discrimination and violence. From a sex symbol imprisoned in a false image, Ricky Martin was reborn as a symbol of freedom and courage. And that very transformation made him a legend, not just in music, but in the history of the equality movement. After Ricky Martin with his global shock, we come to another figure, one who needed no loud declarations, but still made the world bow in respect. That is Jim Parsons. Jim Parsons became a global phenomenon with his role as Sheldon Cooper in the hit series The Big Bang Theory. This quirky, humorous but aloof genius brought him 4 Emmys and a Golden Globe, turning Jim into one of the highest-paid TV actors in the world. On screen, Sheldon Cooper is a quirky physics genius who makes audiences laugh, cringe, and sympathize. But off-screen, Jim Parsons is a completely different person, calm, humble, and especially always true to himself. Jim never put on a show for the public with fake romances. He also didn't run from questions about his personal life. Instead, Jim lived naturally, unpretentiously, but without hiding. He came out as gay, but in a simple, quiet way, so people understood that it was just part of him, not his whole identity. What was special was that Jim's career wasn't affected at all. On the contrary, he was loved even more for his sincerity. A key turning point was when Jim starred in The Normal Heart, a film about the AIDS crisis, where he played a gay activist. That role revealed a whole other side of Jim, profound, tragic, and full of power. Jim Parsons proved that you can be the most bankable TV star and still live true to yourself. You don't need to shout for the world to know who you are, just live quietly, but true to your heart. And that very quietness created an immense echo. It affirmed a truth. You don't need to sacrifice authenticity to reach the top. Authenticity itself takes you there. The next is Zachary Quinto, a familiar face to audiences through his role as the villain Sylar in Heroes, and especially as Spock in the Star Trek films. Zachary Quinto naturally has melancholic eyes, a stoic face, and a mysterious demeanor. On screen, he often embodies edgy, unpredictable characters, but off-screen, Zachary carried a different struggle, a struggle with silence itself. For many years, he chose not to come out, partly due to career pressure, partly fearing the truth would cost him important roles. But then, in 2011, a heartbreaking event happened. Jamie Rodemeyer, a 14-year-old gay teen, took his own life after bullying and discrimination. That tragedy made Zachary unable to stay silent any longer. In a deeply moving public letter, he declared himself gay. Zachary wrote that he could no longer stand by while young people despaired, while he himself lived in hiding. That decision was a media shock, but also inspiration for millions worldwide. After coming out, many feared Zachary's career would suffer, but on the contrary, he continued to shine, taking on complex roles both on stage and screen. Not only that, Zachary became an active social advocate, using his voice to protect LGBTQ+ rights. If Zachary Quinto came out in the 2010s when society was somewhat more open, the next figure bravely stepped into the light from an era when Hollywood was immensely harsh. That is Rupert Everett, the British actor who captivated audiences with his roguish looks and refined acting. He made a big splash with Another Country, where he played a gay young man in oppressive British society, and later left a deep mark in My Best Friend's Wedding alongside Julia Roberts. With his elegant style, captivating voice, and innate charm, Rupert was once expected to become a top star, on par with Hugh Grant or Colin Firth. But Rupert chose a different path, the path of truth. In the 1980s, when stigma was heavy, Rupert came out as gay, a courageous decision, but full of risk. The consequences came immediately. Romantic roles, captivating leading men, all vanished. Producers turned away. Directors no longer invited him to big projects. Rupert bitterly admitted many times that, just because he lived true, his career was stalled. Yet, despite the price, Rupert Everett remained steadfast in his choice. He continued acting, writing, and gradually became an icon, not for the romantic leads Hollywood once promised, but for the courage to face truth in an era when most others stayed silent. Rupert once shared, "If I hadn't come out, I might have been another Hugh Grant, but I would never trade truth for fame." After Rupert Everett with The High Cost of Courage, we come to another story, proof that sometimes living true doesn't destroy a career, but makes it soar higher than ever. That is Neil Patrick Harris, a rare, multi-talented artist in Hollywood. From his child prodigy role in Doogie Howser, M.D., to the legendary Barney Stinson in How I Met Your Mother, or even himself in Harold and Kumar, Neil always captivated audiences with his charming, witty, and energetic style. Interestingly, Barney Stinson, Neil's most famous role, was the epitome of a playboy conquering countless women. But off-screen, Neil was a gay man, loyal and gentle. For many years, he stayed silent, neither confirming nor denying. But in 2006, at the peak of his career, Neil decided to come out. He said it simply, straightforward but powerfully. "I am happy to live and love authentically." The public was surprised, but didn't turn away. On the contrary, audiences loved Neil even more because he proved sexuality doesn't determine talent. After coming out, Neil's career didn't decline, it exploded. He continued succeeding with How I Met Your Mother, won Emmys, and even became one of Hollywood's most beloved award show hosts, including the Oscars. Off-screen, Neil Patrick Harris has a long, happy relationship with talented chef David Bertka. They built a family with 2 adorable children, becoming a beautiful model of a modern, happy home. Neil proved that a gay actor can fully play straight romantic roles and win audiences. And more than that, he redefined what a true artist is, not just skilled in craft, but daring to live true, daring to love true. The next is Ian McKellen, not just a Shakespearean theater legend, but a face who left a deep imprint on millions through 2 immortal roles, Magneto in X-Men and Gandalf in The Lord of the Rings. He is a global icon, admired by the world, but few know that. Behind that glow, Ian lived decades in silence, not from shame, but survival strategy. In an era when coming out could end a career, Ian McKellen chose to hide part of himself. Yet, in 1988, when the UK government prepared to enact Section 28, a law banning promotion of homosexuality in education, Ian could no longer stand aside. On radio, he boldly declared, "I am gay." A short statement, but with the power of thunder. From that moment, Ian McKellen was not just an actor, but a pioneering warrior for LGBTQ+ rights. He founded charities, confronted politicians face-to-face, went to schools to speak for the young generation. Ian turned his fame into a weapon, and his truth into a battle flag. Miraculously, while many feared his career would vanish, the opposite happened. Ian McKellen continued to thrive. He proved talent is never overshadowed by prejudice, and that very courage made audiences love and respect him more. If Sir Ian McKellen is a pioneering warrior, then the next figure is proof of gentleness, simplicity, but full of power. That is Matt Bomer, the man with elegant looks, soulful eyes, and intellectual demeanor who captivated global audiences through the series White Collar. He continued affirming his talent with Magic Mike, The Normal Heart, and The Sinner. On screen, Matt is the modern male god. Alluring, refined, both romantic and strong. But few knew that, for many years, Matt chose to keep his personal life private, not from shame, but because he understood Hollywood was still wary of gay actors in straight romantic roles. He didn't fabricate stories, didn't lie, just quietly lived happily with his partner, publicist Simon Halls, and 3 adorable children born via surrogacy. In 2012, while accepting an award on stage for contributions to the fight against HIV, Matt unexpectedly came out. No fanfare, no media tricks, just a simple thank you, in which he mentioned Simon and their 3 children. That moment hushed the room, then erupted in applause, because sincerity is always stronger than any fanfare. After coming out, Matt Bomer's career didn't suffer, it exploded. His role in The Normal Heart, playing a gay man with HIV, earned him a Golden Globe. Audiences saw not just a handsome actor, but a brave man, living true and full of emotion. Matt Bomer proved that love and truth don't need hiding. And sometimes, just a simple thank you is enough to change how the world sees a person. To close this list, we come to a figure who may not be an A-list Hollywood star, but is a pioneer of historic significance. That is Wilson Cruz, born into a Puerto Rican family in New York. From childhood, he faced double prejudices as a Latino and as gay. That made Wilson's youth far from easy. But instead of hiding, he chose to step into the light from the start. In 1994, Wilson Cruz made history in American TV as the first openly gay actor to play a gay role in the series My So-Called Life. He embodied Ricky Vasquez, a Latino teen facing racial stigma and inner conflicts while discovering his identity. This was the first time American audiences saw such a character on primetime TV. And Wilson didn't just act, he lived with the character. His real experiences were woven into the screen, creating authenticity that moved millions. But that courage came at a price. When he came out, Wilson was thrown out by his own father. He struggled to survive, facing financial and emotional crises. Yet, instead of falling, Wilson turned pain into strength. He continued in many films and series like Party of Five, 13 Reasons Why, and Star Trek Discovery. Beyond acting, Wilson became a social advocate, speaking for young LGBTQ+ people, especially people of color and immigrants, groups that often suffer the most. Wilson Cruz is not just an actor, he is a torch, lighting the way so future generations can walk with more confidence and freedom. And that, folks, is the story of Hollywood's 15 secret gay actors. People once forced to silence, once living in fear, but who finally dared to live true. And through their courage, Hollywood changed. Without Wentworth Miller, Luke Evans, Tom Hulce, without Neil Patrick Harris, Ian McKellen, Matt Bomer, or Wilson Cruz, perhaps today, young generations would still hide in the shadows. If you believe these stories deserve to be heard and want to join us in exploring more hidden secrets behind Hollywood's glow, please like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any upcoming journeys. And don't forget to share this video with friends and family, because who knows, today's story might become encouragement for someone needing a ray of hope. Thank you for joining us. See you in the next videos, where truth is always honored and Hollywood memories live on through time.